Hi guys, welcome to story 11 of December Daily 2023. This is a current events page. I've been adding this into my album for about 3 years now. Kind of choose some of the things going on in December. Going to be using this transparency with the gold foil dots and this patterned paper with the gold foil grid on it. I'm only going to end up cutting that up a little bit so I have a base page. I printed out some of these stickers. I don't have the actual stickers, so I used the digital file. And then some of them have words on them. So a little description of what's going on in each of the photos. And then the blank ones are going to be for numbering each of the stories, which I don't have to do, but I kind of want to do. So I'm going to begin by showing you how I formatted these photos. If you take a little bit of a closer look here, and I'll show you, I actually used the patterned paper. Do you see the light line there? I actually used the digital version of the patterned paper to add my photos to so that I had lines for cutting. So as I'm cutting these, I am like cutting off those light lines. So very, very little bit, but I'm trimming it so that there is white border around the outside. This is not necessary, and in hindsight, probably something that I shouldn't have done, but it was what it was. I had already printed them and I didn't want to start over. And I actually didn't realize that it would be easier without the white border until after I was knee deep in the project. So let's punch some holes. Let me show you here how I'm going to do this. Going to put the transparency on top of the patterned paper and mark where the gold lines are. And then I am going to, first off, cut the holes off, put them to the side. And then I'm going to trim the paper to match the size of the squares on the patterned paper. And that's why I marked it up, because I want each one of these squares to be the same size as the squares on the patterned paper. So I'll turn that sideways. And as I'm cutting these, you'll notice I am taking them off and I am putting them in a pile. And I'm making sure I put them in the right order, just because I want to make sure that I put them back the same way I cut them off. Not really sure if that was necessary, but I wanted to take the precautions so that it didn't cause me problems later. Okay, so let's get these photos. You'll notice while I'm doing this that I have my little trimmer out. Some of the photos need to have a little bit of the white cut off, and that's probably why I realized that I didn't need the white at all. So just giving you that information in case you decide to do something like this. Now I'm going to cut. I'm going to put this in my trimmer and I'm going to cut so that the gold line is attached to not these photos, but onto the rest of the paper. Okay, so the gold line is right there. And now I'm going to take my little squares and I am going to start to put them with washi tape on top of each of the photos to make a flip up. And you'll see here that I'm alternating different types of washi tape. I just thought it would give it a little bit of interest. I have a green with like little asterisks on it. I have candy cane stripe. I have a green polka dot. And then I have a red star. Now I'll see there that I'm pulling that whole piece back in here. And I did put a piece of tape across that. I'm not going to talk much about that because the truth is I end up getting rid of that entire piece. But as I'm doing this, you will notice that I am trying to keep consistency, and you'll see it here. As I'm adding that last photo, I will put that piece on with the holes, and I will try to make it match so the washi tape goes onto the piece with the holes. But again, I'm not going to spend too much time talking about that because I did really end up not using that. Basically, I'm just doing the same thing for this row of photos that I did for the last. I'm just alternating the colors of the washi tape opposite of what they were on the bottom. So again, a little bit of interest, a little bit of color. Well, actually not probably, it most definitely would have been easier to just use one strip of the same washi tape along the entire strip of photos. But I guess I like to just see what can I do? And how is it going to turn out? And if it didn't turn out well, washi tape comes off super easy, and I could have just taken it off and done that with one piece of washi tape. This top row is going to match the bottom row. And you'll see there as I'm doing this that I'm actually measuring it with the previous strip of photos so that the washi tape is in a nice line. Again, not necessary if you're using just one strip of washi tape, but because I keep alternating, I'm trying to keep them as lined up as possible. There I am once again with that strip with the holes and just trying to make everything line up nicely. I'm not perfect. I do try the best I can, but sometimes I have to let go. So now I'm going to punch holes through the photo, and I'm going to adhere each strip right back into place onto a blank piece of cardstock. So it's almost as if the paper was never cut apart, but I needed to do that in order to have the washi tape hidden. And this is the part here where you'll see I'm trying to fuss and mess with this little strip with the 6 holes in it. And as I'm doing it, my mind is thinking, I don't need to do this. This strip does not need to be here, Deneen. You can totally get rid of it. And that's exactly what I do. But I do end up taking little tiny pieces of washi tape and extending the washi tape to the edge of that paper. So you'll see here right there, I'm just putting tiny itsy bitsy teeny weeny pieces. But really, that piece with the holes was absolutely not necessary. Okay, so here's my circles. I'm gonna chop them up and punch them out with a 1.5 inch circle punch. And then I'm going to lay them out, get my little right angle here, and I'll start to place them on top of each of those pieces of transparency. Another thing I want to point out here that you will see that I changed my mind is probably should not have put all of these blanks on first. So let me slow the video down for just a second here so I can show you my reasoning behind that. All right, so here are the top flaps, and I'm going to go ahead and lay out all of my descriptions, and I'm going to start placing them opposite on the back side of each of those top circles. So the first row goes very, very well. I am opening and closing each one to make sure that they are opening and closing easily, and I'm adding them on, and everything's fine until I get to that second row. And you'll see here in just a second, when I get to the second row and I flip it up, it's not laying perfectly on top of the circle above it. And I think, okay, no big deal, but I don't like that. So you'll see here that I end up making the top and bottom circles match. So you'll see I'll take off, you see how that's not matching? Very good. So I'll take off the top and I will flip it open and I will make the bottom match. I'll make this description match the circle above it when it's open. I hope I'm explaining this well enough. So see, take off the old one, flip it up, get the description for this picture, put it on there, close it, then put the circle on. Open it. See, I'm taking the circle off, opening it, getting the description, putting it there, closing it, and putting the circle back on. So this way now, as I'm showing you this, as you flip open each one of these transparent pieces, the circle on that piece is laying directly on top of the circle above it. And I hope that makes sense to you guys, because if you ever try to do something like this, it definitely looks better when they are flipped open and they are laying directly on top of the circle above it. Okay? If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out about that, because I know that could get just a little bit confusing. So let's finish up here with these circles and then move to the outside, and I'm deciding on whether or not I am actually going to put number stickers on these circles or whether I'm going to stamp. So you'll see I pull out a bunch of my stickers and they're just a little bit too tiny. I like them, but I think the circle looks a bit empty. I think these would look better, but I don't have enough numbers. And then I pull out my stamps. So I'm kind of going through each different one. Some of them I just discount immediately because they are too tiny. Others I will spend a little time trying to see what they would look like. Ultimately, I decided that I wanted the numbers to fill more of the circle, so I was going to choose a larger number. And I end up pulling this set that's kind of like a type. And that's the one that I end up using, even though I go through all of these and kind of hold them up against the circle. This is a part of my thinking process, right? What do I think would look good? Again, this is going to be completely up to you, and maybe you don't even want to do stamping, so that is fine as well. But I choose to stamp, and I choose the typewriter Alpha. It was from One Little Word, and I get myself, it's a green ink. I believe it is Pine Needle by Tim Holtz, and I decide I'm going to use that typewriter font. So here we are, just kind of stamping away. I have really been enjoying stamping. It allows me to let go of my perfection in that not every stamped image is going to be perfect. And I know there are people out there who are much better and more seasoned than I am, but I accept the fact that a stamped image isn't going to be perfect, and I embrace it. So here we are. I am putting little dots in and finishing off. Now we're going to take a look and see how I'm going to punch a small half circle out of the bottom of each one of these pieces of transparency. So let's open them all up. And the punch I have in my hand, I believe, is like a I don't know if it's a 3/8 of an inch or whatever it is. It's a little bit smaller than an inch, and it's old. So I wasn't sure how it was going to punch through the transparency. So I ended up pulling out an inch circle punch. And I tested it on a piece of scrap transparency that I had. And you'll see here that I will bring that piece of scrap transparency over to my table, and I will put it on top of that transparency. And you can see there, I'm trying to see how's that going to look. And I decide that I like it. Originally, I thought the 1-inch circle would be too large, but it wasn't. And I really do think I made a decent choice, although you really are not going to see it. And I'm not even sure if this was necessary, but I did it and it was okay. So let's go ahead and do all of those transparencies, just a little bit on the edge. I am eyeballing it. I'm not measuring to make sure they're all the same. They will not be something that will be readily seen. All right, so I have this craft pocket that I'm going to put on top. It contains a little deeper journaling, and I'm not sure what I want to do with it. I contemplated just putting it in the rings, and then I decided that I was going to adhere it to another transparency. Kind of just going through, I did some of these banners. I made them in Photoshop from the banner paper. I modified them a bit, and I printed out just the banners and cut them out. So now I'm going through my numbers and seeing what I like best. But I do know that I like this in the middle there. I do know that for sure. So I'm just kind of putzing. But I get a piece of transparency out and I trim it so that it's not covering the entire page. Punch some holes in it. And then I go ahead and I use some score tape to adhere that pocket right off the edge of that transparency. So it's hanging off. And then I'll get some ribbon and I will thread it through the holes for a little bit of interest and to kind of cover the holes. I will add the black felt numbers with some score tape. That was my final decision. And then I will kind of pick out one of these banners and add that with score tape. I will then pull it off and decide to put a little brad on it. So that's all that little part is. I have a circle and a fabric patch for the back side there to cover the score tape. And I'll get out a tab sticker to add to the top of my journaling card. I had to trim that journaling card to fit in there because it wasn't the one that originally belonged. All right, so there you have it. This is what it's going to look like. And you'll flip that open and then you can see each one of these, when you open it up, will reveal the description of what is going on in that particular picture. And so here I am trying to open them, not realizing that I actually punched these little circles to make that easier, and I'm just trying to grab it from the side. So whichever way you decide to open them, this is how they are going to open up. And I am really happy with how this turned out. I think it's fun. I love to add current events into my album. Again, like I said, this is the third year that I'm doing this, and it just makes me happy because I'm a history teacher. So having a little bit of what's going on in the world, it's always something that's important to me. So here is the final product sitting inside of my album, and I like it. It makes me happy. Another thing I wanted to point out to you guys is that Ali Edwards always encourages us to be a translator of ideas. And although I am doing this for a current events page, this could apply to just about anything. I mean, you can do your favorite ornaments, you could do your favorite moments, you could do just about anything with this particular concept. It allows you to have 12 photos on a page. It allows you to add little descriptions to each of the photos, and it also allows you to add in that pocket a little bit of a longer journaling if you want. So as you're watching my videos and any other videos, always keep in mind that there are so many different ways that you can use the ideas that you see, and open your mind a little bit and try to think, what happened in my life during December that I can use this concept for. Alrighty, so that is it, my friends. Thank you once again for playing along, and let's get working on my next story so we can make another video, and I will see you there.